I never thought my daughter's first birthday would end with my mother-in-law in handcuffs and my marriage hanging by a thread. But sometimes the worst moments reveal the best people. And that day, my 7-year-old stepdaughter became our family's unexpected hero. My name is Bethany, and I'm 32 years old. I teach 3rd grade at Riverside Elementary, where sticky fingers and gap-toothed smiles fill my days. 3 years ago, I married Trevor, a software engineer who wore his kindness like armor against the world. He came with the most precious bonus I could imagine, Willow, his daughter from his first marriage. She was 4 when we met, hiding behind her father's legs with eyes that had seen too much disappointment for someone so young. Trevor's ex-wife had left when Willow was 2, chasing dreams in California that didn't include motherhood. I fell in love with both of them on our 3rd date when Willow asked if I knew how to braid hair like Elsa from Frozen. By the time we married, she was calling me Mommy, and I couldn't imagine life without her gentle hugs and whispered secrets. Then came Hazel, our miracle baby who arrived after a difficult pregnancy that had me on bed rest for 3 months. She had Trevor's dark hair and my stubborn chin, a combination that made my heart skip every time I looked at her. Today was her first birthday, a milestone I'd been planning for months. But there was a shadow over our happiness, and her name was Geraldine. My mother-in-law stood 5 feet 8 in her sensible heels, with perfectly styled silver hair and a smile that never reached her eyes. She was 58, a retired bank manager who ran her life and everyone else's with spreadsheet precision. From the moment Trevor introduced us, she made it clear I didn't meet her standards. "A public school teacher?" she'd said at that first dinner, looking at me like I'd admitted to being a street performer. "And you're still paying off student loans at 29? Trevor's father, Dennis, rarely spoke up. At 60, he'd learned that agreement meant peace, and peace meant Geraldine might let him watch his golf tournaments undisturbed. He wasn't cruel, just absent, a ghost of a man who'd given up fighting decades ago. The morning of Hazel's party started like a dream. Pink and gold decorations transformed our modest colonial home into a wonderland. I'd spent 3 days creating a unicorn cake from scratch, complete with a golden horn and edible flowers. Every detail mattered because this was more than just a party. This was my chance to prove to Geraldine that I could give her son and granddaughters the life they deserved. My sister Fiona arrived early to help set up. At 29, she was my best friend and fiercest protector, a pediatric nurse who'd held my hand through every challenge of the past 3 years. She took one look at my tense shoulders and handed me coffee. "Geraldine's coming, isn't she?" Fiona said, not really asking. "She's Trevor's mother. I can't not invite her to Hazel's first birthday." "You're a saint, Beth." I would have banned that woman after the Christmas incident. The Christmas incident. When Geraldine gave Willow a DNA testing kit, just for fun to see her ancestral heritage, the real message was clear. She wanted to remind everyone that Willow wasn't biologically mine, but today would be different. It had to be. Willow bounced into the kitchen wearing her favorite purple dress, the one with unicorns that matched the party theme. "Mommy, can I help with anything?" I want everything perfect for Hazel. This child, this beautiful soul who'd chosen to call me Mom, made every challenge worth it. I smoothed her dark hair, so like her father's, and kissed her forehead. "You can be my special helper." "Want to put the candle on Hazel's cake when it's time?" Her face lit up. "Really?" "You trust me with the special job." "I trust you with everything, sweetheart." Trevor appeared in the doorway, phone in hand, and my stomach dropped at his expression. My parents just texted. They're 20 minutes away. 20 minutes. I had 20 minutes before Geraldine arrived to judge my decorations, my food, my parenting, my existence. But when I looked at Hazel in her high chair, clapping her chubby hands at the balloons, I found my strength. This was her day. Geraldine had taken enough from me. She wouldn't take this. I had no idea that within 3 hours, a secret video would destroy everything Geraldine had built and save everything I loved, or that my quiet stepdaughter would find her voice exactly when we needed it most. The morning sunlight streamed through our kitchen windows, casting rainbow patterns through the crystal suncatcher Willow had made at summer camp. I'd been awake since 5, putting final touches on everything. The house smelled like vanilla cake and fresh roses from our garden, scents that would forever remind me of this day. "Bethany, you've outdone yourself," my mother said, arriving with my father at 8 sharp. Mom carried a tower of wrapped presents, while Dad hauled in a giant stuffed elephant that was bigger than Hazel herself. "You didn't have to bring so much," I protested, but Mom waved me off. "Our first grandchild's first birthday?" We absolutely did have to. She pulled me into a warm hug that smelled like her signature lavender perfume. "How are you holding up, sweetheart?" "Trevor mentioned his parents are coming." "I'm fine," I said, straightening a balloon that didn't need straightening. "Geraldine's been almost civil lately. Maybe she's warming up to me." Dad and Mom exchanged a look I pretended not to see. They'd witnessed enough of Geraldine's subtle cruelties to know better, but they loved me too much to add to my stress. Fiona was arranging fruit platters on the dining table, creating Instagram-worthy displays with practiced ease. "Beth, remember when we were kids and thought 30 was ancient? Now look at us, throwing birthday parties and dealing with in-laws." "Speak for yourself," Fiona laughed. "I'm happily single and plan to stay that way until someone spectacular enough comes along." Trevor emerged from the garage carrying folding chairs, his face flushed from exertion. Even after 3 years of marriage, watching him in dad mode made my heart flutter. He'd rolled up the sleeves of his button-down shirt, the one I'd bought him last Christmas that matched his eyes perfectly. "The Johnsons just texted. They're on their way with the twins," he said, setting down the chairs, "and my buddy Mark from work is bringing his family." The Johnsons lived next door, and their 4-year-old twins, Bradley and Bella, adored Willow. She often babysat them for practice, she said, for being the best big sister to Hazel. Mark and his wife had become close friends since moving to town last year, their daughter the same age as Hazel. By 10:30, our house buzzed with controlled chaos, children's laughter mixed with adult conversation. My colleague Rachel had brought her famous spinach dip. Trevor's cousin James arrived with his pregnant wife, adding to the celebration's joy. Every corner of our home filled with warmth and love. Willow had appointed herself Hazel's official party assistant, making sure every guest saw the baby's new walking skills. Hazel had taken her first solo steps just 2 weeks ago, and Willow documented every wobble with Trevor's old tablet. "Look, Mrs. Johnson, Hazel can walk all the way from the couch to the chair now," Willow announced proudly, holding her sister's tiny hands. "That's wonderful, sweetie," Mrs. Johnson replied. "You're such a good teacher." I was refilling the punch bowl when Trevor's phone buzzed. His shoulders tensed as he read the message. "They're here," he said quietly. Through the window, I watched Geraldine emerge from their pristine Mercedes, wearing a black sheath dress and pearls. Black. To a 1-year-old's rainbow unicorn birthday party. Dennis followed in his usual uniform of khakis and a polo shirt, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Showtime," Fiona whispered, squeezing my hand. "Remember, kill her with kindness." I opened the door with my biggest smile. "Geraldine! Dennis! Welcome. We're so glad you could make it." Geraldine's eyes swept over my sundress, a cheerful yellow thing with tiny flowers that Willow had helped me pick. Her lips pursed slightly, a movement so familiar I could predict it. "Bethany," she said, my name sounding like something unpleasant in her mouth. "Where is my son? Not hello, not happy birthday to my granddaughter, just demanding Trevor's location like I was the hired help. He's in the backyard setting up the bubble machine for the kids. Hazel's in the living room if you'd like to wish her happy birthday." She swept past me without another word, her heels clicking against our hardwood floors like a countdown to disaster. Dennis, at least, had the courtesy to nod and mumble a greeting. In the living room, Hazel sat surrounded by other babies, all of them mesmerized by Willow's puppet show. Geraldine walked straight through without acknowledging any of them, heading for the back door where Trevor was visible through the glass. "Did Grandma see me?" Willow asked quietly, her puppet still on her hand. The hope in her voice broke my heart. "She's just looking for Daddy first, sweetheart." "Keep doing your show. You're doing amazing." But we both knew the truth. Geraldine never saw Willow, not really, and she barely acknowledged Hazel existed. The party shifted the moment Geraldine entered our backyard. Conversations didn't stop, but they softened, like everyone sensed a predator had joined the gathering. Trevor looked up from the bubble machine, his smile faltering when he saw his mother's expression. "Hello, Mother," he said, accepting her stiff embrace. "Thanks for coming." "This machine is rented, I assume?" Geraldine asked, eyeing the professional-grade bubble maker. "Seems excessive for a 1-year-old who won't remember any of this." "Actually, I bought it," Trevor said. "The kids love it and will use it for years." "Wasteful," she muttered, then noticed the catering setup. "You hired caterers? On a teacher's salary?" "I made all the food myself," I interjected, joining them with Hazel on my hip. "Would you like to hold your granddaughter?" Geraldine looked at Hazel like she was a stranger's child. "I'm wearing dry clean only. Perhaps later." Hazel reached out her chubby arms toward her grandmother, making the happy gurgling sounds that usually melted hearts. Geraldine stepped back. "She seems drooly," she observed. "Are you sure she's not coming down with something?" "She's teething," Trevor said, his jaw tightening. "It's normal." The next hour became a masterclass in passive aggression. When my friend Rachel complimented the decorations, Geraldine said, "Yes, Pinterest has made party planning so easy even amateurs can manage something decent." When Mrs. Johnson mentioned how advanced Hazel seemed, Geraldine responded, "Well, all babies seem advanced to their parents." Reality usually sets in later. During the gift opening, she commented on every present. The clothes were garish, the toys were overstimulating, and the books were below age level. She sat in the corner like a storm cloud, radiating disapproval. Willow tried repeatedly to engage her grandmother. She showed her the special birthday crown she'd made for Hazel. Geraldine barely glanced at it. She offered to bring her grandmother punch. Geraldine said she didn't trust drinks made by children. Each rejection made Willow shrink a little more. "Why don't you go play with the twins?" I suggested gently to Willow, seeing tears threatening. "I want to help with the cake," she said, clinging to my side. "You promised I could put the candle on." Dennis, meanwhile, had found Trevor's cousin James and engaged in a riveting discussion about golf courses. He'd perfected the art of being present, but not involved, a skill that enabled Geraldine's behavior for decades. The tension reached its peak when my mother innocently asked Geraldine about her other grandchildren. "You must be so proud. Willow is such a special girl, and now baby Hazel, too." "Willow isn't mine," Geraldine said sharply. "She's from Trevor's first marriage." His actual marriage. In a church, not some beach ceremony anyone could perform. The insult landed exactly as intended. Trevor and I had married on the beach where we'd had our first date, with Willow as our flower girl. It was intimate and perfect, but Geraldine had called it embarrassingly casual ever since. "Both ceremonies create legal marriages," my father said evenly. As a retired police officer, he had little patience for Geraldine's games, and both girls are your granddaughters. "Biology matters," Geraldine replied, looking directly at me. "Some connections are real, others are just legal technicalities." Fiona's hand grabbed mine under the table, keeping me from responding, but I saw Willow's face crumble. She'd heard every word. "Time for cake," I announced brightly, desperate to change the moment. Everyone gathered around the dining table where my masterpiece stood. 3 layers of vanilla cake covered in buttercream, with a fondant unicorn that had taken me 6 hours to perfect. Pink roses cascaded down one side, and "Happy First Birthday Hazel" was written in gold. "It's beautiful, Beth," Rachel gasped. "You should open a bakery." "A bit much for a baby, don't you think?" Geraldine said, positioning herself right next to the table. "All that sugar. Though I suppose dietary discretion isn't a priority in this house." I bit my tongue and lit the single pink candle. Trevor held the video camera while I lifted Hazel. The room filled with voices singing, "Happy Birthday," everyone smiling at our beautiful girl who clapped along, oblivious to the undercurrents of tension. As the song ended, I leaned forward to help Hazel blow out her candle. That's when I saw Geraldine's hand move. It happened so fast, yet in my memory it plays in slow motion. Her palm connected with the edge of the cake plate, sending it sliding off the table. The crash was spectacular. 3 layers exploded across the floor. Buttercream splattered the walls. The fondant unicorn shattered into pieces. Pink roses scattered like petals at a funeral. "She doesn't deserve this, family!" Geraldine's voice filled the shocked silence. This child, this whole charade. You trapped my son with your pregnancy, you gold-digging little opportunist. Hazel started wailing. Guests gasped. My mother rushed forward while Fiona pulled out her phone, and Trevor just stood there, camera still rolling, frozen in place while his mother's venom filled our home. The silence after Geraldine's outburst lasted maybe 3 seconds, but it felt like 3 hours. Hazel's crying broke through first, followed by the sharp intake of breath from multiple guests. Cake and frosting covered my shoes, and pink roses lay crushed on the floor like my daughter's ruined birthday. Tears welled up in my eyes, but it was Willow's face that broke my heart completely. She stood near the destroyed cake, her purple dress now splattered with buttercream, staring at the mess with tears rolling down her cheeks. Her little hands shook as she looked from the cake to her baby sister, then to her grandmother. "How could you?" my mother said, stepping forward with fury I'd never seen from her. "What kind of grandmother ruins a baby's birthday?" "The kind who sees through this manipulation," Geraldine spat back. "She got pregnant on purpose to trap my son, just like his first wife tried to trap him with that one." She pointed at Willow dismissively. That single gesture, reducing Willow to that one, changed everything. I watched my sweet, quiet stepdaughter transform. Her tears stopped. Her shoulders straightened. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and stepped forward with a composure that shouldn't exist in a 7-year-old. "Grandma," Willow's voice cut through the chaos, steady and clear. "Should I show them your secret video?" The room went completely still. Even Hazel's crying quieted to soft hiccups. Geraldine's face drained of color so fast I thought she might faint. "What are you talking about, child?" "The video from last month, when you were in Daddy's office." Willow walked to her backpack, which she'd left by the couch. "You didn't know I was playing with Daddy's tablet under the desk. I was building a fort and you didn't see me." "That's ridiculous," Geraldine stammered, but her voice had lost its edge. "Children make up stories all the time." Trevor finally found his voice, setting down the camera. "Willow, what video? What are you talking about?" Willow pulled out Trevor's old tablet, the one he'd given her for educational games. Her small fingers moved across the screen with the confidence of a generation raised on technology. "It was the day Mommy took Hazel to the doctor for her ear infection." "You were at work, Daddy. Grandma said she was dropping off groceries, but she went to your office instead." "I was checking email," Geraldine said quickly. Too quickly. "Trevor lets me use his computer sometimes." "You were in his banking files," Willow said matter-of-factly. "You had his password notebook, the one he keeps in the locked drawer. You used the key from under his football trophy." My blood ran cold. Trevor kept all our financial information in that notebook, old-fashioned as it was. Banking passwords, investment accounts, even the login for Hazel's college fund we'd just started. "Willow, show me," Fiona said, moving to stand beside her niece protectively. The 7-year-old navigated to the Photos app, then to a video file dated 3 weeks ago. She held it up, and her clear voice continued. "I was recording myself reading for my school project. But when Grandma came in, I got scared. She seemed really mad, so I kept recording and stayed hidden." "This is absurd," Geraldine said, reaching for the tablet. "Give that to me right now." "No." Willow pulled it against her chest. "You're mean to my mommy. You're always mean to her when Daddy isn't looking. You whisper things at her and make her cry and pretend you didn't do anything." Trevor looked at me, shock replacing his earlier paralysis. "Is this true? Has she been doing things when I'm not around?" Before I could answer, Willow continued, her dam of silence finally broken. "She told Mommy that Hazel looks nothing like Daddy. She said Mommy probably had an affair. She said Mommy's not pretty enough or smart enough for our family. She makes comments about money all the time, asking if Mommy bought things with Daddy's credit cards." "Willow," I said softly, kneeling beside her despite the cake on my dress. "Sweetheart, it's okay." "No, it's not okay." Willow's voice rose. "She made you cry on Mother's Day. She said you weren't my real mom, so I shouldn't make you a card. But you are my real mom. You're the one who stays up when I have nightmares and makes special lunches and learned to French braid for my ballet recital." Dennis finally spoke, his golf conversation long forgotten. "Geraldine, what is the child talking about?" She's lying, Geraldine said, but her hands were trembling. Children have wild imaginations. Then you won't mind if we watch the video, Trevor said, his voice deadly calm. He took the tablet from Willow, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "You did the right thing, sweetheart." Geraldine lunged for the tablet, but Mark and James stepped between her and Trevor. "I think we all need to see this," Mark said firmly. Trevor held the tablet up, turning the volume to maximum. The screen showed his home office, filmed from a low angle under the desk. We could see Geraldine's legs enter the room, followed by the sound of drawers opening. Her recorded voice filled our living room, clear and vindictive. Trevor's too naive to protect himself. That girl probably poked holes in the condoms to get pregnant. Well, I'm not letting another gold digger take my son for everything he's worth. The real Geraldine stood frozen as her recorded self continued. We watched her find the password notebook, her hands rifling through pages. Retirement account, checking, savings, investment portfolio. Perfect. Once I move this money to the trust I set up, that girl won't see a penny if they divorce. She's probably cheating anyway. Women like her always do. Teaching at that public school, surrounded by divorced fathers at parent conferences. The recording showed her taking photos of each page with her phone. Then she sat at Trevor's computer, typing rapidly. 50,000 should do it for now. Small enough transfers that Trevor won't notice immediately. Large enough to build a safety net. I'll tell him it's for his own protection when he finds out. My father stepped forward, his police training kicking in. That's wire fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. Those are federal crimes. The video continued. Geraldine was now on her phone, apparently leaving herself a voice memo. March 15th, successfully accessed Trevor's accounts. Transferred 15,000 from retirement, 20 from savings, 15 from investments. Trust account now has 50,000 protected from that parasite. Next month, I'll move another 20. By the time Hazel's a year old, I'll have secured enough that Trevor can leave without losing everything. You've been stealing from us for months? Trevor's voice cracked with disbelief. From our children's future? I was protecting you, Geraldine shrieked, abandoning all pretense. Just like I tried to protect you from that waitress who trapped you the first time. Don't you dare talk about Shannon, Trevor said, his face flushing red. She left because of you, your constant criticism, your interference. She said she couldn't breathe in this family and I was too blind to see what you were doing. Willow tugged on my dress. There's more, Mommy. Should I show the other video? What other video? I asked, though nothing could surprise me now. From last week, when Grandma came over while you were at parent-teacher conferences. Willow scrolled to another file. This one showed Geraldine in Hazel's nursery, standing over the crib where the baby slept. You don't deserve the family name, she whispered to the sleeping infant. You're probably not even Trevor's. Your mother's nothing but a cheap opportunist who saw a software engineer and dollar signs. But don't worry, Grandma's making sure you won't inherit what doesn't belong to you. The room erupted. My mother lunged for Geraldine, held back only by my father's firm grip. Fiona was already on the phone with someone, speaking rapidly. Several guests had their phones out, recording everything. How dare you, I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite my rage. How dare you stand over my baby's crib and poison her world before she can even speak? Everything I said was true, Geraldine shouted. You're nothing. A nobody teacher with student loans and a used car. My son deserves better. Your son deserves a wife who loves him and children who adore him, Rachel said, stepping forward, which is exactly what he has. Call the police, Trevor said quietly to my father. I want her arrested. You wouldn't dare. Dennis finally showed emotion, grabbing Trevor's arm. She's your mother. Trevor shook him off. My mother wouldn't steal from me. My mother wouldn't traumatize my daughters. My mother wouldn't destroy my family while pretending to protect it. I am your family, Geraldine screamed. No, Trevor said, pulling Willow and me close while I held Hazel. This is my family. The four of us. You're just someone who happens to share DNA. The doorbell rang. Fiona had already called 911, anticipating Trevor's decision. 2 officers entered, and my father immediately approached them with his retired detective badge, explaining the situation. As the officers reviewed the videos, taking notes and asking questions, Geraldine's composure completely shattered. She alternated between threats and pleas, claiming we'd edited the videos, that Willow was lying, that this was all a misunderstanding. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us," the younger officer said, producing handcuffs. "This is insane." Geraldine struggled as they cuffed her. "Dennis, do something." Dennis stood there, looking older than his 60 years. "I can't help you anymore, Geraldine. I'm done enabling this." As they led her away, she turned back one last time. "You'll regret this, Trevor. When she leaves you with nothing, you'll remember I tried to save you." "The only thing I regret," Trevor replied, "is not seeing who you really were sooner." The door closed behind them, and the house fell silent except for Hazel's confused babbling. The silence after the police car pulled away lasted about 10 seconds before our guests erupted in supportive chaos. Mrs. Johnson started cleaning up the destroyed cake, while Mark's wife entertained the children in the backyard, trying to salvage some joy from the day. My mother held me as I finally let myself cry, not from sadness, but from relief. "I'll run to the grocery store," Rachel announced, grabbing her purse. "They have those sheet cakes in the bakery section. It won't be homemade, but Hazel deserves her birthday cake." "I'll go with you," James offered. "We need more ice cream anyway." Within an hour, our friends had transformed the disaster into something beautiful. The store-bought cake had rainbow frosting and "Happy Birthday, Hazel" written in purple. It wasn't my elaborate unicorn creation, but when Hazel grabbed a fistful of frosting and smeared it on her face, laughing hysterically, it was perfect. Trevor hadn't let go of Willow since the police left. She sat on his lap as we sang "Happy Birthday" for the second time, her small voice joining in stronger than before. When she helped Hazel blow out the candle, everyone cheered extra loud just for her. That evening, after everyone left and both girls were asleep, Trevor and I sat on our front porch with my laptop, reviewing our financial accounts. The damage was worse than the video revealed. Geraldine had been siphoning money for 8 months, starting right after we announced my pregnancy. Small amounts at first, then growing bolder. In total, she'd stolen $73,000. "How did I not notice?" Trevor kept asking, head in his hands. "How did I miss this?" "She was your mother," I said simply. "We don't expect betrayal from people who are supposed to love us." Dennis called the next morning. He'd spent the night at a hotel and wanted to meet. We agreed cautiously, and he showed up with a check for the full amount Geraldine had stolen, plus interest. "It's from my personal account," he explained, looking exhausted but somehow lighter. "I've already filed for divorce. 40 years I made excuses for her behavior. I told myself it was just her way of showing love. But watching that video of her standing over Hazel's crib, speaking such poison to an innocent baby, I realized I've been complicit in emotional abuse for decades." He paused, then looked at Willow, who was coloring at the kitchen table. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I should have protected you from her. I should have been a better grandfather." Willow considered this seriously, then said, "You can start being better now." And he did. Dennis became the grandfather we never expected, showing up for dance recitals and school plays, teaching Willow chess, and reading stories to Hazel. He even started therapy to understand how he'd enabled Geraldine's behavior for so long. The legal proceedings took 6 months. Geraldine pled guilty to fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. The judge sentenced her to 2 years probation, 300 hours of community service, and mandatory psychological counseling. She was also ordered to have no contact with our family for 5 years. She sent one letter through her lawyer, not apologizing, but explaining that everything she did was out of love for Trevor. We didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. Trevor started therapy too, working through decades of manipulation he'd normalized. He learned to recognize the signs he'd missed, the way Geraldine had isolated his first wife until she fled, the pattern of control disguised as concern. "I failed you both," he told me one night. "When she pushed that cake, I froze. I should have protected you immediately." "You were in shock," I said. "We all were. But when it mattered, you chose us." The real hero, though, was Willow. That quiet 7-year-old who'd been documenting her grandmother's cruelty for months, waiting for the right moment to protect her family. Her therapist said she'd shown remarkable resilience and protective instincts. "Why did you start recording Grandma?" I asked her on the first anniversary of the birthday disaster. "Because I heard her make you cry once," Willow said simply, and I thought if I had proof, Daddy would believe me. Grandma was always different when he wasn't around. A year later, at Hazel's second birthday, the party was smaller, but filled with genuine love. Dennis brought his new girlfriend, a kind woman who taught kindergarten and immediately won Willow over. Our home felt lighter without Geraldine's shadow, and Trevor smiled more freely than he had in years. Sometimes the most toxic people come wrapped in family titles, hiding behind words like protection and love while spreading poison through your life. But real family isn't about blood or legal documents. It's about who stands up. When you're knocked down, who speaks truth when lies feel safer, and who finds courage when adults lose theirs. A 7-year-old taught us that. A little girl with a tablet and perfect timing saved our family's future. Willow, who once hid behind her father's legs, became our fiercest protector. She found her voice when we needed it most, proving that heroes come in all sizes, and sometimes they wear purple dresses and light birthday candles. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear that standing up to toxic family members is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. Comment below if you've ever had to deal with a difficult family situation, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories about families who choose love over blood, truth over comfort, and courage over silence.